In the first video, I mentioned that I had taken a few classes at the New Orleans School for the Imagination under the poet David Brinks. And I had mentioned a story about where Bernadette Mayer, at a poetry reading, had had the poet on stage read his poem backwards, line for line. David Brinks, in one of his classes, had had all of the poets, including me, read our poems backwards, line for line. And I was very impressed. I was very joyously received when it came to this idea. So I took to reading almost every poem that I had ever read by any of my favorite authors backwards after I had read it forwards to see what else was there, to unlock some sort of meaning that the poet themselves didn't necessarily intend the poem to have in the first place. So I chose one of my favorite Yusef Komunyakaa poems from his book Pleasure Dome, which, as you can see, my copy's rather torn apart and beat up. He's quite an impressive poet. So his poem Confluence, forward and then backwards. And sometimes when you read the poems backwards, you have to ad-lib a few words to allow the flow of the poem to be, well, flown good. Confluence. I've been here before, dreaming myself backwards among grappling hooks of light. True to the seasons, I've lived every word spoken. Did I walk into someone's nightmare? Hunger quivers on a fleshy string at the crossroad. So deep is the lore. There's only tomorrow today where darkness splinters and wounds the bird of paradise. On paths that plunge into primordial green, echoes laughter finds us together. In sweatshops of desire, men think if they don't die, the moon won't rise. All the dead-end streets run into one moment of bliss and sleight of hand. Beside the Euphrates, past the Tigris and up the Mississippi, bloodline and clockwork, the X drawn where we stand. Trains follow rivers that curve around us. The distant night opens like a pearl, fan, a skirt, a heart, a drop of salt. When we embrace, we are not an island beyond fables and the blue exhaust of commerce. When the sounds of river Styx punish trees, my effigy speaks to the night owl. Our voices break open the pink magnolia where struggle is home to the beast in us. All the senses tuned for the Hawkesbury labyrinths turning into lowland fog. Hand in hand, feeling good, we walk phantoms from the floating machine. When a drowning man calls out, his voice follows him downstream. I love it. Yusef's brilliant. But get a load of what happens when you read him backwards. Now, Confluence was just read forward, word for word. Nothing added, nothing taken away. Read backwards with a small amount of ad-libbing. And when I say small amount, I think I added 3 words, small ones, to flow from one line to the next. But Confluence backwards. His voice follows him downstream. When a drowning man calls out phantoms from the floating machine, hand in hand, feeling good, we walk labyrinths turning into lowland fog. All the senses tuned for the Hawkesbury where struggle is home to the beast in us. Our voices break open the pink magnolia trees. My effigy speaks to the night owl. When the sounds of river Styx punish beyond fables in the blue exhaust of commerce, when we embrace, we are not an island fan, a skirt, a heart, a drop of salt. The distant night opens like a pearl. Following rivers that curve around us, the X drawn where we stand. Trains up the Mississippi, bloodline and clockwork beside the Euphrates, past the Tigris. A moment of bliss and sleight of hand. All the dead-end streets run into one. If they don't die, the moon won't rise. In the sweatshops of desire, men think green. Echo's laughter finds us together on paths that plunge into primordial splinters and wounds the bird of paradise. There's only tomorrow today where darkness is at the crossroad. So deep is the lore that hunger quivers on a fleshy string. Spoken. Did I walk into someone's nightmare? True to the seasons, I've lived every word backwards. Among grappling hooks of light, I've been here before, dreaming myself into confluence. So give it a shot. Try reading some poems backwards, line for line, because in there are definitely some brilliant, beautiful ideas that I don't think that Yusef necessarily intended to have in the poem. It's very fun, and I find that Yusef, a lot of his poetry works very well for this. I think mostly because he's so brilliant. And try doing it with Dylan Thomas someday. That's fun. It's funny, really. So yeah, more backwards poems to come, I'm sure. More poetry ideas to come, I'm sure. And that's that.